Dear respected Thai, dear Sangha, dear friends who might be new to the practice. I see Brother ST online. So happy to see Brother ST. He's one of the, he is maybe the elder, the #1 elder of our Sangha in Singapore. And I'm delighted to see him. I hope I can see him in person when I'm back there in the fall, which I intend to be. That was a wonderful, to me, a wonderful guided meditation. Sister Wang and I were obviously of one mind, because it's my practice to always do as our teacher Thai, I heard him say that he does, which is when he has something big to do, something important, something where he really wants all the assistance that he can muster. He says, Buddha, take over. So he invites the Buddha to be present. And I have, in the last few years, found myself also inviting Thai to be present with me, which of course he is anyway, but I like to recognize that. When I say he's with me, I mean his energy, that we who are his students, his disciples, to use a word that I'm very familiar with in the Christian tradition, we are his continuation. So we continue the practices that he taught us, and he stays very alive in that way. He's in our hearts forever, of course. So yes, so I was asked to speak on the meaning of Vesak. And I said to Brother David, I wrote him back and said, oh, this might be challenging for me. So most of you know that I come from the United States. You can see that I'm not Asian, and at least not in appearance. And so my ancestors were not steeped in Buddhism, in the tradition of Buddhism, the religion of Buddhism. Mine were steeped in Christianity. And but now, of course, in the West, we have millions of people who follow the teachings of the Buddha. And quite a few of those millions are followers of Thich Nhat Hanh, our teacher. And so I bring to this talk a kind of beginner mind in the sense of observing and celebrating Vesak. In fact, I don't think I'd ever heard the word until I came to Vietnam. Maybe I'd never really paid attention to the word until 2007, when Vietnam hosted the celebration. So every year it's offered, my understanding, every year it's offered in one of the Buddhist countries, all of which are Asian. And that year it was in Hanoi. And actually Thai was the #1 presenter at that, Thai and the monastic community, a 3-day celebration. So since Brother David asked me to do this, of course, I had to really reflect on it and realize that, well, yes, it's true. I've never really paid much attention to the date or of the Buddha's birth, or I've just not thought of it in the way that I think many Asians do, and historically anyway. And so as I did my reflection and read through a lot of Thai's teachings, I realized how, in a sense, how perfect that a Westerner is sitting here talking to you about Vesak, because we in the West have no attachment to the ritual. Of course, that's changing, and I cannot speak for every Sangha. Certainly, I know that there are Buddhist traditions all over the world that are quite celebratory when it comes to this, to Vesak. But in Plum Village tradition in the West, it has not been stressed to celebrate. But some of the sanghas are engaging in some of that now, and I think it's quite wonderful. But Thai, Thai has taught us. Well, Thai's whole life was really devoted to renewing Buddhism. He says that Buddhism in Asia, or I don't think he actually says in Asia, but I put that in there. But that Buddhism in these times has been corrupted, his word, corrupted, and that it's been corrupted by mixing it with a lot of other beliefs, traditional beliefs, depending on which country you're in, and a lot of superstition, that it's primarily devotional, has been historically devotional. And I certainly see that in the years that I've lived here in Vietnam. I can say with certainty that most of the Buddhists, those who identify as Buddhist in Vietnam, do not practice. Or they have a practice, but the practice is one of, reminds me a lot of what happens in many Christian communities in the US that I'm familiar with, where it's people go to church or go to the pagoda and do a lot of bowing and paying respect and asking for help, asking for something, asking to have a child, asking for good health, asking for a success in business, always asking for something. And so Thai says, it's I think I've seen him shake his head and say, the Buddha has taught us. So when you read the teachings, he's taught us to focus more on developing our spiritual life, and that when the Buddha attained enlightenment, what he found, he was looking for. I'm talking now about Gautama Buddha, who began life as Siddhartha, Prince Siddhartha Gautama. He realized he was suffering, even though he had a very princely life. He realized he was suffering. He was not satisfied. And there was a lot of suffering in him, and it brought suffering to those people around him, his parents, his wife, his son. And so he left the palace walls, and he went out and on his own searched for truth, searched for a way to end the suffering. It's beginning with his own. What was causing this? So what he discovered was that there was a need for what we were led to do during the guided meditation, for mindfulness of breathing, of mindfulness of the body, for mindfulness of the mind, mindfulness in daily life. And that when we slow and stop and really sit with ourselves and begin to notice, we begin to concentrate. And it's in that way that we can gain some insight into what our issues are and what the root causes of them are. And then we can begin to heal and transform. So the Buddhist teachings are very much about letting go of greed, letting go of this belief that more success is going to bring happiness, more money is going to bring us happiness, more of everything is going to bring us happiness. And then what has happened in the last, I don't know how many hundreds of years, I don't know when the corruption of the Buddhist teachings began in Asian countries, before it ever reached the West at all. But somewhere in there, it became devotional, and it became a practice of asking for the very things that the Buddha teaches us to let go of. So it's really kind of, it's no wonder that Thai, as early as the 50s, when he was in Vietnam, began to see that something needed to change, that no longer was Buddhism bringing healing and transformation. It was no longer helping the people. It was no longer serving the people, really. And there was war everywhere, and greed and fear and all those negative states of mind. And so that was when he began to say, you know, there needs to be a renewal. So Thai, our teacher, how can we ever have enough gratitude for meeting this teacher who was so brilliant, Thich Nhat Hanh, who was so brilliant, who devoted his entire life to finding a way to renew the teachings of the Buddha. So, so here we are with a Westerner talking about it, and it's much easier for me because I'm not rooted in those traditions. I have a beginner mind, you might say, and my introduction to Buddhism was as a path, and that is the way I practice. It is a path for me. Some of you've heard me say that when we had our first, when I moved to Vietnam in 2005, I came with Thai and the Sangha when he made his first return to Vietnam after 39 years in exile. And I thought I was coming for 3 months, and that was 18 years ago, and I'm still here. So I and people I met in Hanoi, so I didn't do it by myself, we started a Sangha, the Hanoi Community of Mindful Living. And we had a Sangha house, and we had a beautiful altar, and we had a Buddha statue that one of my sons had given me, a little wooden statue about this big, and had him on the altar. And then we had a practitioner who was very helpful and had some experience in the practice, and so he often would facilitate. So we offered something 5 days a week. So he and I just traded until some other people learned how to invite the bell and felt confident enough to also facilitate. Very important to do that in the Sangha, to let people develop their skills and confidence. We all have so much wisdom to offer. But this man, he was very attached to the statue. So he was quite devotional in his practice. And so I took great delight, in a sort of teasing sort of way, but actually it was a very serious action on my part. I would remove, when it was my turn to facilitate, I would remove that little wooden statue from the altar, and I'd put it on the back of the toilet. And then the next day he would come and I would not be there. And he would come and he would find it. We never talked about it. But every time when I came back after he had been there, it would be back on the altar. So we just played that game for about 3 years. But what I was, of course, really trying to do, and somewhere in there, I hope I was successful in reaching some people, to make the point that the Buddha is not the statue. When we are bowing down, we are bowing to one in us, the energies that have been transformed in gratitude for being alive. We are bowing down in gratitude for the ancestral teachers. There's no worship about it. There's nothing. There's nothing to worship. And so, but for many people whose ancestors have for hundreds of years paid homage to the altar, to those statues, to those images, that can be a little bit shocking, and it might be, and it also gets in the way, I think, of really understanding that this is a path of understanding and love. This is not a path of devotion at all. Certainly we honor. So that, I think, if we can celebrate Vesak in the spirit of honoring the ancestral teachers, in particular Gautama Buddha or Siddhartha Gautama, who sacrificed, well, he did what he wanted to do, and it took him a long time, but he was able to attain full enlightenment. And then he didn't stop there. He started teaching right away. So it's because of his energy and his compassion, that man, not a god. So that's it. You know, the corruption of Buddhism has turned him into a god. And I know many Westerners who are not practicing, but who are practicing other faiths, who are very misguided by that. They believe, I've had conversations, they say, oh, well, but Buddha was a god, and then he died. What? What kind of religion are you mixed up in? I've had people say that to me. Just a misunderstanding. So, oh, he was a man, he wasn't a god. That's the most wonderful thing about it. He was a man. He was a human being just like us. And he just shows us the way. And because we know he was a man, he lived, he died, he got sick, he experienced all the trials and tribulations that we as human beings in the 21st century are experiencing. Different, perhaps, yeah, suffering can take many faces, can have many faces, but he suffered and then he came through that. How inspiring is that? And we can do the same thing. So our focus in our Plum Village tradition is on practice. It's on the practice of breathing, conscious breathing. It's a practice of mindfulness. So there are a couple of foundational discourses, teachings by the Buddha that are extremely important. And as I prepared for this talk and just did so much reflection on it yesterday in particular, I thought, wow, I'm going to have a lot of people there tomorrow. I owe it to everyone to do my best. And what can I offer them? And I realized that I wanted to talk about the discourse on mindfulness and on breathing first. And then I realized that I discussed it with the I come back, I'd like to offer a course on the breathing. And so that's how important the breath is. That's how important it is to realize that this thing that's just, whether we're aware of it or not, is so important to become aware of. Otherwise, we're just walking around really as the walking dead, as my root guru used to say. When we're not aware of our breath, when we're not mindful of our own body and mind and what's going on inside of us and around us, we're essentially dead. We're not alive. If you, when you look back on your life, which I have done a lot of, I've lived a lot of years, and many of them before I met the practice. And I see there are whole sections of my life that I have very few memories of. And I've had the insight that that was because I was not present in those moments. So, we all know that feeling if you have misplaced something in your house, something you just had in your hand, and now where did I put it? I just had it in my hand. What happened? It was because you put it down somewhere when you were not present. So you don't remember having done that. Your mind was distracted. So your mind was multitasking, something we're trained to do in our world, especially in the work world, aren't we? We're expected to, even in school, we're expected to be able to balance to do this, the magician's trick with the balls, keep it all going. That is no way to live. That's no way to live a peaceful life. That's a way to have a busy mind, full of anxiety, full of fear, can't do it all, full of feelings of being overwhelmed, which then nurtures those feelings of not good enough. I should be able to do that, but I don't know why. I just can't seem to do, because so much going on in the mind. Never taking time to really slow down, stop, just be with oneself, be present for oneself. So the Buddha taught us that there's a way to calm our mind, to calm our strong emotions. There's a way to be happy. There's a way to be happy in the moment. But of course, we get caught up, don't we, in worrying about the future. I've done a little bit of that myself tonight, just during the since we began. I've done a little worrying about the future, and I've become aware of that. Oh, this is crazy. What was my worry? Oh, we started late. How are we going to make up the time? How is it going to be? Should I cut time off of my talk? Is somebody else going to shorten their presentation? How are we going to work it out? I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. I can trust that whatever happens is exactly the way it needs to happen. And that, for those of us who hear that for the first time, that might sound a little, don't know if you know that phrase, Pollyannish, a little naive. Really, you really think everything always turns out all right? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Even when there's suffering involved, even when there's pain and suffering. Yeah, we sang that song in the beginning. My joy is like spring so warm. Yeah, my pains fast as the ocean. My joy. Yeah, flowers. Yeah, so to see that joy and pain are one, to see that suffering and happiness are together. So we need to have that mud, that mud to grow that lotus. And it's been my personal experience that it's my joy is equal to the amount, or to the, I've never known exactly how to say this. I can only feel joy to the extent that I'm willing to feel the pain. If I try to push the pain away, pretend it's not happening, pretend whether it's physical pain, it's the resistance that causes the suffering. It's the resistance. So if you've ever, and I'm sure everybody in this group has had body pain from time to time, maybe you have chronic pain, physical pain, and you might have noticed that when you can relax. So this was a major teaching of the Buddha, a major teaching, mindfulness of the body, and learning how to release tension. And we'll do some of that in our total relaxation practice after lunch. And we'll all enjoy that very much. But it's a chance to really get in touch with the body and learn how to relax. So when I have a headache, which I do get, most of us have headaches from time to time, and I'm aware that mine are associated with tension in the neck, pinched nerves. I get on the yoga mat and I do deep breathing and stretching a little and relaxing. That way I don't have to rely so much on pain pills, and which are full of chemicals. And I really do my best to stay as chemical free as I can, knowing that I'm not, but just doing my part anyway. So, we become our own physician. We become our own psychotherapist. We become our own psychologist when we have this practice. As Thai says, the Buddha was the first psychologist. And he was the first doctor of psychology. Think about that, because he understood the necessity to explore the mind, to explore the past, to know what's going on and what has gone on. Mm-hmm. But in our early stages of our practice, it's very important to water seeds of joy. It's very important. It has been for me to practice with the Sangha and to stay with the Sangha. Don't run away from the Sangha when the going gets tough. That's the time to come to the Sangha. So we really, that's why we sing a lot, to water our seeds of joy and happiness. Those little songs that we sang in the beginning, they seem like little songs. Some of them are really kind of fun. And this one is, I love the roses. I love the daffodils. I love the mountains. I love the rolling hills. I like the twinkling stars when the sun goes down. Doo-be-doo-be-doo. That little song, it waters my seeds of joy when I stand in a circle or sit in a circle and watch grown men singing that song. I just love it because, the females, the women, it's not quite as strange because many of us enjoyed singing as children, and then maybe we had children, or we were an auntie or something, we were around children, and we sing little children's songs. But most men are out there, they're out there working, and they're all serious about trying to provide for the family, of course. And then to see them, to see somebody like Brother Troy, 6'3" or whatever he is, they go, I love, it's heartwarming. So this is a way that we water our seeds of joy. And the more we do that, the more we increase our capacity for feeling the pain, for looking at the past, for not being afraid of finding our truth. What is the truth of my experience? Why in my adult life am I still plagued with this or that? Why have I had a divorce? Why is it that I have these issues in relationships with my family or with my spouse or partner or at work? And now I begin to see a pattern, but I don't know how to break that. And I don't know what is the cause of this anyway? Why am I the way? When we feel confident enough, we stop and we look down and we ask ourselves, we look here, and I ask myself, what's that about? I want this to change. And sometimes that's all that is necessary, is just to have that intention. I'm ready for that to change. And things will start changing. Somehow the universe just takes care of us. The universal energy, somehow. I don't believe it's God sitting up there listening to me. I don't believe it's Buddha the man listening to me. It's just something that has shifted in my own consciousness, which is, of course, connected to yours. We all are in that ocean. We're a drop of water in a river. The river flows to the ocean. We're a wave in the ocean. That's the metaphor that our teacher uses. We're a wave, but we're water. At the base, we are water. So a wave dies down, it's true, but then it comes again. Nothing is ever lost. Nothing. Scientifically impossible. Just transformation. So that was a huge teaching of Gautama Buddha. No birth, no death. Only manifestation and transformation. I manifest as a human baby. And then I transform on the day that I appear to have died, when I let go of the body, and I go back into the ocean. You know, in our Plum Village tradition, Kai never taught reincarnation. He doesn't teach that, you know, I will see you again and I will say, oh, hi, Brother Troy. Hello, Brother ST. Yeah, on the other side, it won't be like that. And how does Ty know that? From looking at nature. So spend time in nature. Nature teaches us a lot. And you see how what happens in nature with a flower, the flower comes, it might even come through the cement in the sidewalk, and it breaks through and it's coming. And then at some point, when the conditions are no longer sufficient, where do you think it went? It didn't go anywhere. It just died back like the wave, but the energy is still there. The seed is still there. So when we really practice like this, we can, it might take a long time. It certainly has taken me a long time. We can then be relieved of our fear of death, our fear of disappearing, of being, yes, Trish, this personality, this, what you see, yes, you won't see this again, just like we won't see Ty in that form again. And we miss that form. So of course it's natural to feel sad when people pass away. Sister Lay, our good dear Dharma sister, just passed away a few weeks ago. But I know she hasn't gone anywhere. She lives on in our hearts. And now it's our practice is to look for her. The roses, she loved roses. Yeah. The songs she loved. We keep her alive that way. Yeah. So she didn't go, but the form we miss, and we can cry about that. It's natural to feel sad about that. We're human beings. Yeah. My mother passed away 34 years ago. I miss her every day. Still, I talk to her a lot. But oh, how I would love to be able to put my arms around her and have her put her arms around me. Yeah, she was always such a comfort. She liked to hug, and I loved the way she smelled. Yeah, so, but in my imagination, she's still there. I can still smell her. Yeah, it's how I support myself. Yeah. So what if I've got some notes here on the side. So I'm going to look and see, what have I forgotten to share with you? I know that what we want, each of us, whether we've ever had the words for it or not, we want to be free people. We want to be able to walk on the earth as free people. And if we practice, we can do that. And what does it mean to be truly free? Has nothing to do with politics. Has nothing at all to do with whether I'm incarcerated or not. Whether I'm locked into this room and can't ever leave. Has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with my emotions. Have I been able to let go, transform anxiety, fear, worry, hatred, envy, jealousy, Can I love? Have I learned how to love? Have I learned boundless love? Have I learned to love even the people I don't like? That's a good one. We can do that. We can do that. And we might even learn to just be with things the way they are and not decide whether we like it or not. It's just, that's the way, that's what it seems to be happening now. That's the way I hear that. That's the way I see that. I don't even have to qualify or quantify anything. Just be with it. When I was in Singapore for 7 weeks earlier this year, we had a course that I think we learned a lot. We took the Buddha's discourse on happiness, dwelling in the present moment, and we read that together and we talked about it together. I talked like I'm doing now, and then we had sharing about it and what is it to be happy. And so now when I come back, if we can focus on the discourse on breathing, and if I'm there long enough, maybe we can get on to the discourse on the 4 foundations of mindfulness to really give us the ABCs of how to be in the world. So I wish each of you the very best. I'm happy to see so many of you today. And I'm going to stop now. I might be shaving just maybe 5 minutes off, so my contribution to getting back on schedule. Thank you for listening to me. I look forward to being with you for the rest of the day. Trish bowing out.